Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy? Darling? Light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
He's very angry.
He's such a mad god.
He is. Dude, that scroll at the beginning is dope-a-lope, man.
Everything about this movie is dope-a-lope.
Everything about this is very epic.
Well, that's as good a place as any. We don't have the preamble. We're eager to talk about it. So this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi. That's Jordan. We're talking about the dope-a-lope movie. So we're a little over halfway through a horror-tober month.
Yeah, we're
in deep. We're recording
over
this.
Halfway.
Yeah, we're recording this on the 18th, so we're over halfway now, buddy.
Right.
And so today we are talking about the stop motion masterpiece that came out last year, Mad God.
I would say it's like it has some like pixelation in it. It has, some live action moments, some puppet moments.
It's got
some,
a little
like,
it's mixed.
hardcore
It's
stuff.
mixed media.
Mixed media for sure. And I want to say just right off the top, that I still don't quite know exactly what's going on in this movie.
I was gonna say
I'm gonna read you a synopsis
this is gonna be a hard one. I
some
think
of the narrative.
because I'm gonna preface this by saying I think this episode is gonna probably sound a little more pretentious than most episodes because this film is so much into like interpretation plus like just gushing about like the process of the filmmaking. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about like the plot or anything like that or the characters.
I think this is definitely talking about the overall themes, like the arcing themes that are involved in it. And I can tell you, I read and listened to a lot of interviews.
I checked out a little bit too, just because I was fascinated. But before we get too crazy into it, for those who have not seen it yet, Jordan apparently wrote a synopsis, which I'm very interested to hear.
I think I did.
Because I feel like I could either spend forever trying to describe this movie or I could describe it in like one sentence. So I don't know.
Right. And I think the description on Letterboxd is pretty accurate. I don't know, pretty nice. And it will be, you can compare them, please.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say something real quick. This stop animation and or like, Casa de Lobos, or the Wolf House.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is harder to talk about. They're both, and harder in the sense that like they're both really abstract.
I feel like this is harder to talk about.
Yeah, like
we will talk about the Wolf House in our special Horrortober episode. We will get into the Wolf House a little bit more. It's hard to say because
I just wanted to say they're both beautiful movies. So anyhow,
there's more to grasp onto, surprisingly, narratively with the Wolf House.
The Wolf House, right?
But even then, these are both such, as my wife would say, artsy fartsy, abstract movies, and you have to kind of like your film as like, oh, this is a introspective piece of media that I need to sit and stew and try and see how it reflects on me and understand the meaning, or if there even is a meaning, like.
Now, what is the meaning? Why did he poop on his breasts?
Everyone, there's so much poop in this movie. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. But poop is life, dude. So anyhow,
it's the cycle, friend.
We all get eaten and pooped out. I'll give you the synopsis real quick.
We're all just star poop.
If you, nice, dude, nice. Okay. If you have not seen Mad God yet, let me give him a synopsis here. Opening their eyes for the first time to the world around them, the assassin descends from the clouds in a steel pod, delicately suspended from a wire. The assassin is immediately presented with danger as he is surrounded by turrets and enemy fire from all directions. His vessel touching the ground unscathed, the assassin reveals a cryptic map, showing the way to his final mission. As he traverses the decrepit and war-torn landscape, he observes strange creatures, all twisted in active electric wire. The deeper the assassin travels, the more of the ecosystem is revealed, showing roaming deformed creatures going about their tasks of moving filth and building monuments. As we travel further, the map crumbles to ashes, with little time remaining and a creature looming in the piles of wreckage. The assassin reaches what he believes is his destination, setting a bomb detonator. The detonator fails, and the assassin is captured. After capture, we see the assassin is on an operating table going through a torturous procedure. During the procedure, the assassin's mind is invaded, revealing the secrets of his people. As this continues, the doctor begins to dig through his chest cavity, producing a baby creature. This creature is given to a witch and an alchemist, who turn the baby into a sacrifice, casting the child into the void of space and giving new life to a new world. That's it. Easy peasy, dude. What is there not to understand?
Easy peasy.
And even then,
and it's like you're not grasping, but at the same time, it's like it's hard to say. Even this movie's just so vague, and it's like
I know.
If anyone doesn't know, there's not like a shred of dialogue in this at all. Like
No.
It's basically a silent film, but I implore you, like you need the audio because the audio is so effective.
Just like in
good.
silent films, silent films, like they typically
They weren't like
craft the
actually
music
silent. Yeah, they had they had music, they had orchestras or
right,
even just a piano player with them. But
and literally that would like orchestrate what's happening like on screen. Like you'd have to have, and with this, you don't necessarily need to have like knowledge of what music is being played, but it definitely impacts
the musical
your feeling.
This movie's pretty light on the score, but like the musical cues when they're there, they hit hard. Like they're really good when they hit.
Yeah.
Like even with the opening, so the opening it was immediately rock solid. And as I'm sure you knew I would be.
I'm glad we finally got to see this, dude. Because it's like I watched this like when it first came out on
Shudder last year or whatever.
Shudder, and it like
or this year.
It was
I think
2021.
No, I think it was released in 2021, but I don't think it came to Shudder until earlier this year.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah. I think you're right. But I mean, as you'll find out later, everybody out in the podcast world, you probably know a little. If you know this movie at all, you probably know its sordid past, and it's a like 30-year endeavor. Like he started in the late 80s. It's part of the
selling point. It's like Phil Tippett's passion project, and he's like a Hollywood special effects insider and has been on many of your favorite films all through the 80s and 90s and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. And he's like been at the helm of like a lot of your special effects that you've seen in some of like your favorite films. And he was
the dinosaur supervisor.
Dude. And we're gonna let's get to that later because I want to hear your first impressions because this is your first time seeing it.
Yeah.
But keep the Jurassic Park thing in the back of your mind because I have a question for you later and some musings. But tell me your first impressions.
Musings, yes. Now, literally, I love this movie a lot. I was unfortunate because I did have to watch it somewhat interrupted. I started watching it. I watched it in like 5 segments, honestly.
And honestly, that's how
works.
it was revealed.
Yeah,
that's how it.
It was
essentially it was released like that.
Yeah, I would wait to for a scene. It's just like had my kids, and then I'd stop to make dinner, and then I watched like another bit, and then I finished it last night or whatever, or the other night. But from that opening scene, I knew I was 100% on board because it's got the tower with the blood red sky behind it, and the clouds coming down.
The storm, dude. That storm is just
it's so good, and it's just the intense operatic mute, like it's just like an opera music, and then the scroll of like just like this hateful god being like, I'm gonna just rip all your humanity down for all your hubris and your arrogance, and your cities will be ash, and it delivers on that because it's like there's your synopsis was, I don't want to say generous because that is what happens. But it's like there's so little like plot and intention.
It basically the synopsis is my interpretation of this movie because as every human being exists, there's that interpretation of this movie.
But I feel like
it really can mean something. It can mean a lot to a lot of different people, and I like what I took. I took a hopeful meaning from it. In some from things being destroyed.
Interesting.
And how we rebuild on top.
I felt this was very, very cynical to me, but like, yeah, it's like in a way that it's just like, it is what it is. So just do what you're going to do kind of thing. But, dude, this was a visual feast. And I'm like, I want to go back and rewatch it already.
Well, dude, if this couldn't have been a theatrical release, this is like the movie. There's a lot of movies out there that it's like, I wish I saw in theaters. This is a movie I just wish was even released in theaters, so I could have had the chance.
Yeah,
because there's the amount of
epic.
detail.
Yeah, the amount of detail is insane, and like
can't even, dude.
The quality of the stop motion and like all the puppets and the sets are just like bonkers, and it's like the mixed media where it's got like the compositions of live action and like all these different things. I want to watch it again because I wasn't necessarily distracted, but during the first segment when the assassin goes down and he's like keeps going down deeper into the depths and all the things he's running into, didn't have the focus that I had for like the second half of the movie, which was just me alone watching it.
When did you
and I was
kind
much
of
more
divided,
like glued to the screen. I like couldn't look away. I was like, oh my god.
It is divided basically between two assassins essentially. So there's do you remember? Obviously, the first assassin,
right?
He goes down.
He sets his bomb and he gets attacked by the monster, and the bomb
and
doesn't go off.
I love that too. How the bomb's like, it's like you get that like, dude. Oh, I can't even talk about like how Captain Hooky I was in this whole movie, dude. Like the clocks were like making me anxious, man. Like every time because he like sets the bomb and it's like tick 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 tick, and then it's like tick 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 tick. Just sitting there like broken right at the end.
Literally at my screen was like, oh no, like.
Yeah,
I don't even know exactly his mission and everything, but I'm like,
no, there. Yeah,
but the fact that like, it's like he's so close. It's like obviously he's there, just kind of, I don't know, man. It's good though.
Well, I don't think there's one specific because Victoria kept asking that. She's like, what was his mission? What was?
Nah, I think it's more like
clearly. I don't think there was any
broad scope. It's like
yeah,
it's just another act of war essentially, but you can almost say it's the war of like, because it's like the guys that send him down have like the so-called like they're like he's the live action and he's all the doctor and the priest and all that, and he's
considered the last man on the last man.
Yeah, so he's like making these things and sending him down. It's almost like he's waging his war on like evil and hell essentially, because it is like very much gave me the like 9 layers of hell kind of vibe going down into the depths.
100%.
Because it's like,
and it's cool because it's
hell
like,
on earth. It's 100% normal hell on earth. Like
it to me is it's like familiar things, like human things, like going through, and there's like dinosaur bones, and you're going through, and it's like, and then you start seeing like decrepit like figures, and then you're getting deeper into these recesses where it's like you're so far underground that now like there is no proportions, nothing makes sense anymore, and you are in a like you're out of like any kind of human realm at all.
He lands at a crossroads, and so you're like, okay, so that's like, it's like he's not even underground. He's literally just like of like cities built on top of cities built on top, like on ruins on ruins on ruins, just like to so deep it may as well be underground, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going down, and so it's just like I felt this like never-ending sense of just like this crushing like anxiety and dread of just like this never-ending hellhole, because you'd only just see glimpses of it too. Like you have all the like lint workers that are just like being made and then basically just killed and scraped and turned to shit.
Well, I was gonna say they're reanimated like defecant and mixed through the like intestines of this like organic
they're
robot.
They're literally just plopped out of a mold.
Well, I love I love how this is basically, he basically just takes the camera and he just starts going down, and as he's going down, it's showing each layer, and each layer something goes into the next layer below it, and it works so perfectly where it's so hard to catch. It's like, this is my second time seeing it, and I'm noticing little details in the background of like somebody doing something, and later that same creature, it's like they're in control of something else. It's very, I don't know, it's very systematic to their world, and like everybody, there's like the hierarchy in between everybody else, where it's like a disgusting creature rules like the autonomous people, but then those autonomous people are like created from what looks like humans that are just like human batteries that just like produce electricity and then just shit.
Yeah.
And then that shit goes down into that like that organic, ape's mouth.
Baby monster slug.
Yeah,
ape.
right.
Yeah.
That goes down into its like stomach, and then that is like processed, and then it's pumped into the molds with like the green ooze. It's just it's so cool. It's so 1950s sci-fi mixed with the twisted mind of somebody who's gone through like a nuclear war, and like
Literally.
it's beautiful, dude.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's interesting because it's like this is definitely one of those movies that it's just like it's just meant to be like experienced. Like you can
Right.
like at its core, like there is things to be said about like humanity, and they're like squabbling over nonsense, and they're literally monuments of shit. And like the way it treats like these like expendable lower class to like build these up and blah blah blah. Like there's all these kinds of like themes and stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, it is something to just kind of like be experienced, especially since it was made over the course of like ramblings over years. And it's like obviously there is like somewhat religious allegories, because I mean the movie's called Mad God, and it opens with like I mean, I'm sure if I was fluent in the Bible, which we've talked about this before, I might make more connections, but it's just like there's that tower, the Tower of Babel at the beginning.
What the flip is the scroll that goes by with all those beautiful words? It's like I think that's like a passage from the Bible. I'm not 100% sure.
It says Leviticus on it.
It says Leviticus,
but I don't know if
Is
it's
that what
I don't
it was?
know if it's 100% in the Bible. I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure. Either way, it's like it's effective to like Mad God. It's like this place has been just not just forgotten by God, but actively made like this is an angry God. In a world where it's like God and devil are the same, and this is an angry Old Testament God that is just punishing the people and the creatures to live here. But it's just something you walk through the eyes of the main characters to experience the world and the environment, and because it's all vibes for sure. Like it's all the whole thing is just super vibes. I've heard people compare it to like video games like Limbo and like Little Nightmares and stuff, where it's like there's not like a big story or anything necessarily, and there's not like a bunch of dialogue, and you just kind of like go through these worlds and have like this uneasiness, and there's like lore and like world building going on around, but it's definitely more of like a visual feast for sure.
I think because of the nature of its filming, where it was literally shot over 30 years, but it's less like a solid 30 years of production.
Yeah, he started it
30 years. He
30 years ago,
he did like 3 minutes in like 87. He shot like 3 minutes of this. Like the assassin stays pretty much the same since the 80s, like almost identical. He shoots the main character, quote unquote.
Do you know then what he shot back then and then versus what he shot now? Do you know what bits?
Yeah, so
I don't, and I was trying to guess.
No, yeah, so I'm sad that I didn't have time to look it up, so I will look it up and post it on the Reddit. But from the interview that I read and some of the interviews I watched, it was pretty recent, like as of like 2000. Oh, I had it up. It's like 2014. I think it was like 2014, 16, 18, and then he like finished it in like 18, 19.
Yeah, I'm sure all the editing,
and
everything
had all
took
the
a
editing and stuff.
While.
Yeah,
Post.
but like there's other stuff like building. So he would get like, in the mid 2010s, to build that huge, all those army men that were all like decrepit on top of each other.
The like mountains of bodies and shit. Yeah.
The mountains of bodies. It's like it took them like 3 years just to get that built, and then they
a lot of it was like he was doing a lot of other stuff at the time, and it was like
Right.
You just come in and shoot it at his studio that he owns, and then just have like interns work on it. I was reading, and then eventually he did the Kickstarter to like finish it and like kind of really put a little bit more cash into getting it finalized. So
I'm mad because I'm looking at the stupid Kickstarter right now, and I'm like, I can't tell when it was established. I don't know how to tell when they freaking.
2014, 2016, somewhere in there sounds right.
Oh, they have December. Yeah, they have December. Oh, it's December 2013 is when the Kickstarter went up. And then they still make updates to it as of 2022, as of June 15th, 2022.
Nice.
But
because it finally came out almost 10 years
later.
Right,
right. So people who pledged are, finally getting their stuff. Yeah. But anyways,
wouldn't that be cool if they got like some of the puppets and stuff?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. No, have you seen any of his studio?
Yeah, I watched like a 5-minute long kind of interview with him that I thought was like, it's got like the most views on YouTube of like when you search Mad God, pretty much.
It is insane.
I'm so jealous. It looks so cool.
It's basically like Geppetto's nightmare.
Dude, it's like the Mythbusters studio, but just for fucking stop motion.
Just for stop, yeah. Because he'll have he has stuff. I know for a fact. So in an interview, he was talking about how he finally purged this out of his body. Like he's had it since the 80s. Mm-hmm. It's been musing in his head, and he's been working on it. And
you
it's just
feel that in this though.
His day job.
He said he's like. It's got to get, it's like, I just go with where it feels like it needs to, again, and that's one of the pretentious sounding things. It's like, I didn't create the art moved through me, right. And it just and but it's like, you do feel that with this because it doesn't have this what humans like to do with their clear storytelling and like their 3-act structures and stuff. Like it is very
that's what he said. It's he said it is the most traditional hero's journey where a hero go but that's what's so funny is basically, in a weird way. Basically what you do is you take the most generic basic story and you just completely augment it to where people are shocked, and then they kind of lose the fact that it literally is just the hero goes to a crossroads. He walks to the road.
Get out of here.
He goes into a house. He goes through the back door. He goes on another road. He goes to a wall. It's all these things, he finds passage through the wall, and that's it. And it's it is so simple. It's such a clear line, and but it just you create all these peripheral, societies and just the monotony of it, dude. That was the thing that's what I really drew from this is it feels like the world moves on no matter what, no matter how
disturbingly so. He opens a door. Just as he's trying to make his way through, this destroyed fucking region reeking with toxic sludge and stuff. Early on, he opens the door and there's that monkey creature being experimented on, and that creepy. And then he's just
a salamander.
Okay, never mind. It just closes the door.
Closes it. Dude. That salamander is the cutest. I loved that when he opens it. He goes to it. The salamander just kind of looks over at him. That's great.
Yeah, it's super.
Well, dude, I know it's fun. It's towards at the beginning when he steps on those gnomes and stuff, and then he gets his binocular things out.
I remember seeing that and be like, okay, so what kind of movie is this?
No, dude, the first because at the beginning I was okay, this is. I'm expecting there's going to be a structured narrative because it totally opens up like that. Totally gives you okay, here's bad guys, here's good guys, here we
he's
go. He's
dropping down. It's got a fucking Terminator vibe on the surface. It's all these odd, just gross
and it's
battle blasted surface, and he's
the assassin's in war fatigues. It looks clearly looks like he's
it's some World War I gas mask looking type shit. Yeah.
Right. You have that aesthetic going.
But the design of him, the design of everything is awesome in this, but I love his design a lot though.
Me too, yeah. And I think it's I think Phil Tippett got that nailed down back in the day and was all right, I know exactly what my guy's gonna look like. So that's cool. But dude, right when those gnomes get squished at the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that's what's wild too. Is this? There's no sense. The sense of scale is so disproportionate in this.
I love it
because he's walking along, he's stepping on entire creatures without even really realizing it. But then like he's walking later, and there's like huge creatures that are the size of skyscrapers. You know, like the basically all the dudes in the electric chair are like massive sizes of buildings.
Yeah. I'm like,
It's
I
very
was trying to grasp
disorienting,
that,
but like in a
right.
really interesting and cool way.
Yeah. I tried to make sense of it, like the second time, because the first time I watched it, I straight up just like, I was like, I'm just here for it, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I'm just watching it.
And
like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, and you pick it up pretty fast too.
Very
like, you're like, okay.
quickly though. Yeah, very quickly. I was like, I'm not gonna sit here and try and dissect this though.
No,
because I did have it on with Emmeline, and she was watching it, and she thought she was actually into it because it's stop motion.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And but then Mary's
Funny
like,
monkey.
yeah, she's like, this movie's moving like really slow, and I said, yeah, I think it's gonna be like that, and I'm like, I don't think there's gonna be any dialogue or anything either. I can kind of just tell already, and there's not, so it's definitely a very specific type of movie, because after too much craziness, I was like, I can't pay attention to this, and you people, let me turn this off and finish it later.
No, definitely. I was quiet like the whole time we watched this again. I was like with Victoria, and like I just like, it's one of those where even with like the Wolf House, I like didn't want. I was kind of like enraptured in what was happening.
Yeah.
And even though I've seen this before, I still was like, trying to catch the little details, and maybe even try to put more of a narrative to it. And they're really just like, it doesn't need to be. That's so great about this. It's literally just, I almost feel like it's like an hour and a half music video.
I was literally,
gives me that vibe, like the Brothers Quiet stuff, like stuff that like, I'm pretty sure it's 9 Inch Nails and stuff. They do like just the weird kind of random.
It is more like that. It almost makes me wish that the music was a little bit more prevalent.
Yeah, me too. This watch,
there's a couple moments where it just like really hits hard, like at the beginning, and then like,
and there's a track that's been stuck in my head. And I'm like, I loved. There's like that. It's kind of like a music box-esque.
Yeah, the Descent Down had some good music, but if they just had like hired an orchestra and just did like, well, they hired one guy, I think, anyway, did all the music, but just like went hard on the music all the way through. But it's like, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, because it's like, part of me feels like that would have fit it really well, but also it's like I feel like I would have missed out on like the really great sound design of this movie. Otherwise, there are a lot of scenes where it's just like you're just like listening to all the dripping and like the screaming, and like what I thought was really, really uncomfortable was like all these inhuman creatures had like sounds that were really recognizable to things in our world, like a lot, like they were like the giant gross mouth that was talking to all the automation shit people was just a baby babbling.
The baby babbling, dude.
But it was a grown man's disgusting mouth. But he was like matching the babbles.
Syncing, the syncing of that. Like he must have just listened to it and been like, and
guaranteed.
It was so creepy.
All the animals that it's just like you're looking at an animal and you're like, this is definitely the sound of like a pig or like a bull or a horse or something. But it's like this thing I'm looking at is like such this grotesque creature that there's like still this disconnect, because what you're seeing is not matching what you're hearing, which I think is a better choice than creating something entirely new and entirely alien. Because it almost adds a sense of like this perverted like mutation of something that's familiar to something that's like so unfamiliar. Because you're like, what are you? I mean, and it sounds like you're making ape noises, but you look like a fucking crazy inside-out insect monster. Like, I don't even know what you are, dude.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's like a bull that walks on like two like bipedal, and like it's like body is up, and it has like breasts hanging like udders, and then it shits on them,
There's
dude.
There's so many monsters though. That are just
my god,
so unique and cool. Like, like some of them are really like really grotesque and gross, like with the big old floppy titties monster, and then like.
Well, and I think what he did is like, this is clearly like, I mean, there's the amount of mushroom cloud, like footage, and like the amount of just like fallout and just nuclear waste that we have involved in this movie, where it is just showing kind of the adaptation of like what creatures would come into, and like, I don't know, where we would become if there was like utter war. And it's just like whatever creatures, these are the creatures in between the cracks that like are living their lives again.
It's literally just a world of, like, literally I was like, hellscape, hell on earth. Like
Right.
those are the things going through my head. It's just like a world ruled completely by suffering. It's like there is no, and that's why I'm surprised that you said it was kind of like in a way I could see it being kind of
No,
hopeful with how cosmic things turn out.
Right. And if you the second assassin,
Yeah.
he makes it to the end of the destination, but then we just leave him. I love that, dude. The last like 30 minutes, the assassin like makes it to the maze and he just starts going down into the pit.
Yeah.
And it's just like
It's like
he's
the
just
quarry
done.
or whatever. Dude,
Yeah, and you
that
have no
whole
idea,
scene
like-
though, that felt like an 80s music. Like that should have been like a really epic, brutal video. Cause like the whole like it's like the World War vibe of just this blasted landscape and there's like a tornado and
Well,
dust.
and it even starts with like the old witches like stitching up from human skin,
Well,
stitching
they made
the map.
the new map.
New map. I love I loved that imagery. It's like it's so cool, man. This is like this truly is unique. It's cool because it represents a lot of different things, but it's so unique.
You know what it weirdly reminded me of? And I'm about to spoil the shit out of the Dark Tower series for anyone right now, and I'm talking like the very end of the Dark Tower series. But at the very end of the Dark Tower series, the whole thing starts over basically because it's like all cosmic and shit. So
Idris Elba comes over and high fives you.
Don't remind me. Oh my god. But the whole thing starts over, but there's one slight difference. And so it ends where it's like, oh, the whole thing's this big cycle.
There's no more Jamba Juice.
Yeah. And then so there's just this slight difference where you have this feeling of like, oh, maybe things will be different this time because it's this slight improvement, you know? It's like maybe this will make the difference, all the difference to like change things for the better. And that's what I felt like with the map where I was like, how many times have they done this and then lost a guy?
Dude,
because there's they show there's like thousands of them that they lower down.
Yeah. Well, and you saw there's like hundreds of cases that made it to that spot.
Yeah.
And so
they're like scattered around too. Like there's like
right. Well, I feel like because oh my god, dude, there's so much to this. The detail. So the first assassin, his map, it looks like a skeletal structure. So I'm almost
kinda.
like, are they inside of like a creature? You know, almost.
Who knows?
To an
there's
extent.
no sense of scale.
Right. There's no sense of scale, and so it's just kind of like, and there's
creature
like,
is
there's no sense of
the
scale.
folly of man. And, you know, like, that's what I'm like.
Right. And that's what's cool. It kind of looked like a skeletal structure on the map, and the map's like falling apart. And like as he goes down, it's like he makes it to a completely different like rendezvous point or whatever. He's like the first assassin, and it's like he there's other briefcases there and stuff too. So it's like it's failed, like you said, like thousands of times.
Well, and it doesn't
like,
even really matter if it succeeds because it succeeds.
I feel like it, yeah. Right.
But it's such a small victory that it's just like that's a drop in the bucket. Like that bomb went off and destroyed that area, but it's so vast and never ending that it doesn't matter because it's one explosion in an area that you would need millions of explosions, but also. Yeah. Because it's just like it never ends. It's this never-ending cycle of life and death and suffering and pain and then pleasure and then pain, more pain. You know.
See, and I guess the reason I feel like it's hopeful is because like to them this is living. They never show, at least from this viewing and what I could like surmise. They never show like a bygone era or they never show anyone longing for like what used to be.
Well, that's the big
and so
difference.
I feel like it's like
this has been going on so long, but that's why I'm like there almost is no like,
this is their history, and so they're trying to change it for the better. And when that alchemist like creates, they essentially cast that
that's the
it's a do you know that's a monolith from 2001?
Oh, 100%.
Like Tippett was like, he said that he's like, oh yeah, they're the monoliths.
Yeah, you watch
2001: A Space Odyssey, and that's what
falling out of the void and everything.
Yeah, right. And when he creates them, it's like those are part of like a quote unquote Big Bang, and it's like I love that because I was like, dude, the monolith in 2001 is so epic. Oh my god.
I was at we'll skip forward slightly because may as well, but that whole segment was by far my favorite part. Like
yes, mine too.
The taking of the baby by death.
That like witch. It's
a plague.
She's just
doctor.
called a witch.
She's
she's like a.
I literally
she's called witch in the credits.
I literally was like from not even the credits. I was like, okay, so like this baby is like represents like the human essence, or like literally maybe this is the soul of like,
Right. So,
you know,
or I'm thinking this is the true humanity, and like
Yeah.
the outside is like another
literally
vessel. Or,
innocence, possibly,
Yeah.
you know. And I feel like they give it to. I felt like this creature very represented death. I mean, it had all the flowing black and like
Sure.
the big plague doctor mask and everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like they take the crying abomination. I don't know.
I know. Well, and I love how it does. It morphs when it comes out. It's more like, and I think that's just like probably placenta, or probably just like in a a comparison to like new birth. And then as death takes it down, or whatever the witch takes it down, it does change. It gets like, it looks kind of more ape-like, and it's like, it has more of a spinal cord and stuff. You get to see the creature form a little bit more.
Yeah,
It's cool.
it's like 75% spinal cord by the end. It's just like a weird spine slug. That they just crush, distill, and then turn
love
to
that.
like just a beautiful powder.
And
that
they
he
well,
just,
like, because they make it into like a monolith, if you will.
Yeah.
And like, so it's so cool.
Well, it
It's
just like turns
that,
into
that
like an
alchemist is so
ingot,
cool.
and then like crushes the ingot, and then the death or whoever the witch like there's like this weird cosmic like eldritch god vibe, and like throws it into the void and creates like a whole new universe, which is pretty bonkers. But the whole walk from like when they gets the baby with the epic music and like the slow motion like tendrils off the thing,
That
as it
animation's
descends,
beautiful too.
so
That's like
good.
the most. That's like the most beautiful animation. Like, this animation isn't really. You're not meant to like marvel in the animations. Like, I don't know. Or I mean, I don't know. Like,
a lot of it's really smooth and
it's so-
everything, but
right, of course. It's technically it's beautiful, but I don't think you're supposed to like. I think you're supposed to be uneasy. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be dark, and there's like hard recesses
that
to
scene
look
definitely
into.
feels like the most quote unquote like
that's-
angelic,
Right,
because
right,
it's got the
exactly, yeah.
music, and then like, and that's what definitely made me think death too. Like it felt like it was going through like the gates of hell, because it's got the giant bull statues. As
I
it
know, yeah.
walks through.
That's sick. Yeah,
Which I love so much. And then when he brings it down, and then the whole cosmic shit, like I was just that whole sequence, which was like a 10-minute long sequence. I was just like, yeah, buddy.
And I feel like that's a lot of this movie. Clearly, was a lot of like a sequence where he's like, oh, this is cool, and how he stitched it together, because years and years apart, and he really didn't come at it with a script or anything. It's like he would literally storyboard a scene, and then they would just do it, and
it's not about that, you know what I mean? It's not about
clearly.
the plot, or it's not about
well, dude,
Mr. Assassin. What's his real name, and who is he really? Like, who gives a fuck?
No,
like,
because they are all nameless. It's like like you said, there's just they literally are just warring, and they're all like they're kind of like for Mad Max, it's like
well, and they're
just
kind of
war
like
boys,
martyrs in their own way too, because it's
Right.
like they're almost always on suicide missions, and they go with a full determination, and so I guess I could see the hopefulness there, because it's bleak, because this may have been going on for thousands of years, endless account of years, and it seems like nothing can change, but it's like there's the type of determination that they still have this determination of like there's an ambition to go on, to fight the powers, like, because even with the bomb at the end, there's those little girls spray painting the anarchy.
Oh,
Whoops.
I loved that, dude. Oh, that was so cool.
So there is like
because it shows.
Fight
That's
back.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that clearly like shows every universe that gets built, there's going to be civilizations that are built, and anarchy and destruction, and like there's going to be like an oppressing force, and like a liberating force, or a force that is fighting back.
Well, it's
and I
very
think
much
it just
like
it is
the
like,
cycle, just like
Right.
the cycle of life and death and humanity and Earth, and like it's one of those movies that's like you're like, so what's Mad God about? And it's like it's about everything, and it's also about nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you know,
right.
like-
Basically, yeah. It's like this is like a prog rock.
It's like human history, and it's like about like life and
Yeah.
death, and they're like, no, dude, I'm pretty sure it's about like religion, and it's like,
Well,
well,
and
yeah, it's also
I
about
look at-
religion, but it's
well,
also about like
yeah.
not religion. Like,
No, right, and I mean, and it can be like almost the advancements of what war can give you with the destruction that it leaves behind. It's like it's got pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, and I think the symbolism between like it opens with somebody opening their eyes. That's like the first sequence. They have like a lot of like eyes opening, and then it like goes to like the tower and stuff, and then it ends. The ending is just somebody closing their eyes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I like that. Like that's where I'm like, oh man, that's deep.
Whoa. Yeah, right. And it's almost like there's like the whole segment in the middle that like kind of it's almost like the intermission between the two assassin storylines and then the the alchemist and death and whatever of like the first assassin's body getting autopsied on essentially.
Well, dude, and then his head getting drilled.
Dude, that like literally so cool. Made me wince because he's like his one just it's like googly eye bulging out, but it's like would be funny if it wasn't like so grotesque.
It's
but
right,
he's like,
exactly.
He's like,
yeah.
well, he's like watching, and it's like, like, and it's definitely just like one of those drywall like drill bits that you just put holes 100%. In drywalls, but you're just like, oh Lord, they just like,
yeah,
I don't know, and then they like start pulling all the books and the gold jewelry out of his body and everything.
Right. I mean, yeah, and the symbolism behind that is so cool. Like the like history that gets pulled out of his chest, like everything, all the like. There's nothing like nothing familiar. That's what I think is beautiful. Like it's like the second his chest gets open, there's no bones. It's just mush, and then like they just goes through like history through his chest. But dude, that we're not really quite there yet. But I'm gonna throw out like one of my favorite parts is that sequence when he gets his like brain drilled. Or no, he's waiting. I think it's before. He's like waiting for it to happen, and the clock is like, bling, bling.
Oh yeah,
bling, and then it's like, bling.
Yeah, dude.
Bling. Like, dude, the countdown made me so anxious.
That whole
he's
sequence.
Just like his eye, and it's just like he is paranoid, and the clock is like. It's like how the clock is counting seconds. It's like it's so unnatural, and then it just slows down so much.
It just shows that, like, even in this world where it's like everything is endless, it's like time has lost all meaning.
Yeah.
To the point where it's just like you can't even measure it anymore, and if you did, it wouldn't matter. But like that.
But still, we're still ruled by it in a sense. Like it's driving him crazy. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you still are kind of a slave to attempting to measure it. It's just like this. Right. Weirdly human thing that even inhuman creatures in this do. But that shot is arguably one of the most disturbing shots in the whole thing for me is when it's rising up the high rise to go into his room, and all the whole building is like there's no wall, so you could see in all the rooms of all the other bodies that have been like worked on and autopsied and experimented on, and they're all just like horrifically mutilated corpses. And then it just comes in on him, and you're like, well, that's not going to end well, man. Like, it's not.
no, right. Well, and you kind of assume that that's other assassins, and that's other, like, it's like the cycle. That is the cycle. It's happened. And it's kind of almost like, it's like there had to have been a beginning, but it almost just seems like there was no beginning. Like, almost like the world, the alchemist could have just created
this world of suffering. And mad, it's the mad god, dude. He just created this endless thing, and it's like gave them just enough of a fire up their ass to fight the establishment, to like try and take back and destroy your enemy. Because even then, it's like you don't really even know who the real bad guy is, who the enemy is, because it's like whoever the last man on Earth is sending his like all that army of like all these assassins. It's like to what end? You know what I mean? It's like there's not like a clear. It's like the most clear antagonist could possibly be like Death, the Witch, or Death, or whatever, is just the messenger. It's like you can almost say the alchemist. I almost saw him as like a Satan-like figure, or like the embodiment of evil, because he's down there like toiling and he's got the two giant monkey creatures fighting each other while they're piling their shit.
And then he has like, I don't know. I see him as like he's evil, but he's definitely like he's the curiosity of mankind, like things that we've
100%.
The horrific things that we've done, but it is exactly. It's all like
in the name of science, in the name of
knowledge, right.
The seeking of knowledge,
right. And that like through like historically, if you want to go to the parallels from like biblical terms, it's like science has been crude, and it is, it's definitely.
What'd you think about? I mean,
ravaged.
This time you were ready for it, but I wasn't really ready for it when I saw it. But that sequence when they get down to the alchemist layer, and there's like those super, like it switches gears entirely. Like everything's been really dark and grimy and grotesque, and like, you know, it's had like some colorful moments.
Then there's
but
the acid trip poster.
The black light poster, like the
Yeah.
cute little things. He just dumps the maggots in, and they're like, "Ooh, maggots!"
Yeah,
and they're
and
slurping
just,
them up.
dude, they're slurping them up, baby. And I'm like,
Their
I
mouths
need to
are
look
perfect
into.
size
Are they
for slurping maggots. They're
are
disgusting.
they real maggots? Because those things were gross.
I guarantee you they real.
They were riling around. It was the rising.
100%. Phil Tippett's just dumped a thing of maggots in
Dumped
there
some
and
maggots
just
and just
started
shot it,
taking
dude.
pictures.
It was awful, man. But
And
anyways,
I was like, this is weird. This is making me uncomfortable. They're fucking hard for these maggots.
Yeah.
And then like the latch opens and it's like you just get a glimpse into the just creepy spider layer. And as soon as I
Yeah.
saw that, I was like, oh, I hate this. This makes me so uncomfortable because it's just so. Because even the weirdly not like I hate spiders, but I felt a little bit better. This thing wasn't a full spider; it only had 4 legs. But
right, and
but
it
like
kind of crab like,
yeah,
kind of sideways.
Even then, it was like covered in like all those cute bioluminescent like octopus spots. But it comes up and it doesn't even kill the thing. It just captures it and drags it screaming back to its dark lair.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that was horrible.
Yeah,
And then it
like
just
that.
ended. And I'm like, this was the moment for sure. Like everything felt tangentially connected, but that one felt like Phil Tippett's was like, yeah, that's part of it. And he's like, yeah, I filmed that thing. Let's put it in Mad God. It fits the themes.
No, right. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't film that. And one of like the students that he had, because he got like what he would do is like he would just have, you know, like students and friends and just people kind of come to the studio who've never done any work, and he's just kind of there like they would get like brainstorm and they would just have an idea and they'd throw it together. It's so weird to like stop animation and just animation in general. Everybody out there in the world, you might have some knowledge or grasp about how the process of it, how you create an animation, but it's like there is no spontaneity. Like you don't when sometimes, you know, like movies are filmed and a car will drive through, somebody falls, there's improv. You can get that on film and you capture it and it's a beautiful moment. You can't do that in stop animation or any kind of animation. Like everything is like 100% deliberate.
Has to be.
But this movie has so many things that happen that I'm like, God, that attention to detail of like somebody just had to been like, oh, let's just do this and it'll create some realism. Like having like it would have stuff like you said, the dripping is really important. When the guys were like shoveling the shit and stuff, it would like fall in ways that just seemed so random. And I'm like, God, it's like so cool that it's immersed in this like realism where it was like somebody had to like think about every single aspect, anything that moved or did anything.
You can definitely tell, like you have to be conscientious of that in all animation, especially stop motion, but you can definitely tell in this, they definitely was like aware of the gravity and the physics of things, because that's something you'll like really lose track of. And I think this movie was allowed itself to be a little bit more crazy because, like you said, most stop motions are all animations, but stop motion specifically are so deliberate because it's like you can't just have an idea and be like, yeah, let's just shoot that, because it takes days to shoot, you know, seconds. But it's like the fact that this was basically shot, but at least planned over the course of like decades, essentially, kind of like gives it more of a scope where it's just like, okay, yeah, you know, that's a fun idea. Let's add that in because it's on such a longer timeline. And then it's like, yeah, it took us 6 months to film it, but it's the equivalent of that almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But since it's on such a huge timeline that it's just like, yeah, fuck it. But it does. Everything has such like weight to this, though. You know, it's like they really are the attention to detail on like not only just like the models themselves, but the animation. You can tell he's been doing it for a long time. But just because it's like there is just like the heft and like the build up and the like physics, like it's hard to do physics like we've done stop motion, and it's hard to in the moment think about, you know. So here's the amount of energy you have to put into moving an arm, and then it starts slow, and then it goes fast, and then it slows down again, and it's the gravity kind of like makes it slump. It's like it's really hard to think that when you're moving a piece that like would be a natural movement of like half a second, but it takes you all day to film.
He definitely can. He definitely can
and
visualize that.
that's why stop motion is so cool.
He has practice. Love. Well, dude. Okay, so this right here, ladies and gentlemen, perfect segue into what I was talking about earlier. Jurassic Park. So he was a consultant, and he was like a VFX whatever dude.
That's three
He
V's,
did-
people.
Yeah.
VFX.
Yeah, baby. But so he did like visual effects on Jurassic Park. Have you, Levi, Jameson Robinson, seen any of the stop animation work that they did for Jurassic Park before they went full CG?
No, I saw his a little bit of Phil Tippett's dinosaur shorts that he did
Yes,
in
dude.
the 80s, and they are fucking awesome because
They are
I did see a
amazing.
thing where he was like, oh, obviously, like so many other great animators, saw King Kong and was like, oh yeah,
Yeah, that was
And,
Oh my God, J Henry Housen or something. What's the
Yeah.
guy's name? I can't think of his name right now, but
something like that.
who basically invented stop
That sounds
animation, did
right.
like Jason the Argonauts and stuff.
Yeah.
What is it? I can't think of his name. But anyways, yeah, Housen.
Housen's, yeah, it's definitely Housen, I think, but I don't know. J
Jay-
Howard Housen Henry
I don't remember.
Hilford, but the
He's old, man.
The dinosaur is like obviously because there's the dinosaur moment in King Kong, but like his dinosaurs are sick, and so I was almost like the CG really holds up in Jurassic Park, but
Dude, there
I'm like
will,
I want
you-
stop motion dinosaurs though.
and you and I know nothing in the world will ever like compare to stop animation. They're just
well, me and you
actually,
were unapologetic stop motion nerds. We fucking
Yeah.
love stop motion animation.
Right. It slaps. It's a banger, whatever you want to say. But his I'll go post that too, dude. His Velociraptors, he like did tests for them, and like for like you said in the 80s and like 90s, he did the tests for Jurassic Park, and they looked so good, but they have that like they have just a little bit of like human touch, like they. God, dude, it's so weird to explain. It's like they look like puppets. They look like
Yeah.
animatronics.
Even when
that-
stop motion
that they
is
shoot
perfect,
between.
it's like you can still tell it's stop
They're-
motion.
Yeah, because
Which is a
it's impossible
stylistic
to like.
choice, but
Right, and stylistic, and just to the nature of it, it's like you can't create in betweens. It's like everything you create, it's there visually, and so it's like with like CG, you can go and you can create like really fluid movement. And I think what they did in Jurassic Park is perfect. It's a great blend, but he is pretty bitter to Jurassic Park, even though he probably got a fat paycheck. But he states that as the movie that killed stop animation. And I was curious if you agree with that, or what your thought is. And I've been thinking about it like a movie that killed it, because eventually we would get to where we are now.
well, we've
And
always said
honestly-
before there always is going to be that movie. Like someone had to do it eventually.
Right.
But knowing the story about how it was supposed to be all stop animation, and then it was
know.
like one of the first big uses of like CG and like good looking
Right.
CG,
Right.
it might
Quote,
be,
unquote.
dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I watched Jurassic Park like a couple months ago, and it holds up.
No, and it
for the
really
most
does.
part.
I think
It
I think
holds up
it's like-
better than the sequels, surprisingly.
Right.
Like, it's weird that a movie from, like, what, Jurassic Park's what, 93, 95?
93, 95, I think, yeah.
Something like that.
But dude, I think the reason why is because like they did so much stop animation work. Like they built the skeleton up to the CG.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but dude, the stop animation work for this Velociraptor is ingrained in my brain, man. I got to go find it. It is so fluid and so beautiful, and it's because it's like it's a real thing, man. I know that like stop animation or like CG is fine. It does its job well, and we've talked about this. As long as it can blend in, that's really cool. And even if it's used as like
Well, in Jurassic Park,
the main creature,
they
it's
used
fine.
They used it sparingly,
And you cut in between.
They still used animatronics quite a bit, so it's
Right,
like,
exactly. That's the whole thing. You blend it, use it. They used it as another tool for telling their story.
Well, they
and
used it
and I'm fine
correctly,
with
yeah,
that
for sure.
Right, they used it correctly, and that's something we always like talk
and
about.
like early
using it
pioneered
correctly.
it, yeah.
Yeah, right. And it holds up because there is such a blend. They don't use it for like hardcore close-ups. They don't really put like humans immediately with it and stuff like that. They're smart. They actually take like tangible real things and have because you can tell when like somebody's acting with like a CG creature, they're acting with the tennis ball, as we say, and like the joke in Hollywood, it's like when they're just following the tennis ball, you can tell. And so, I think that they did what you're supposed to do in a movie, and they took their time and they cared about it clearly. And Jurassic Park's an amazing film. I love it. But nothing will beat like nothing will beat like a real tangible thing that exists. It's so cool.
Even if it's like, because I think that's the biggest thing, honestly.
I'm gonna marry stop animation.
I love same. I want to see. So I think the biggest problem, actually, I think I got it. So the biggest problem with like stop motion not looking quite real back in the day, I don't think is the stop motion, because it's still, you have to treat it like a visual effect, because it's not like that thing is moving around life size on set most of the time, unless they're using animatronics. It's still filmed separately, edited to be stop motion. And then the problem is the compositing. I don't think they've ever quite nailed the compositing of taking the stop motion frames and perfectly integrating it into live action footage to be seamless. And I think that's why stop motion always looks a little still stop motion. I'd like to see someone now.
Yeah,
so
true.
Like the only modern person I can think that does it now, off the top of my head, is like Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson, yeah,
but
right.
the movement looks really good, and he does it so stylistically that it's so obviously stop motion. I want to see a movie where they use stop motion in it, but they try to cover up the fact that it is stop motion by trying to make it as realistic as possible, but with our modern tools, but no CG. Like, I want to see a creature in stop motion that looks like perfectly well lit and perfectly composited into a live action frame, to see how that would be these days. Because I feel like, because I'm thinking the Thing, see, now we're just talking about stop motion, but The Thing,
I know, yeah.
John Carpenter's The Thing is what is maybe my favorite horror movie of all time. I think it's a fucking masterpiece. I have like 3 Thing posters on my wall in this room.
Thing is it's a beautiful movie.
I remember the first time I saw it, I remember the weakest part being in the very third act, the monster they have going under the floorboards, and then it pops up, all the tentacle monster, because it's stop motion. And I loved that it was stop motion, but it was slightly immersion breaking for me the first time as a young boy. Now I know I was wrong, but still, I would like to see that.
You can tell it's like on a green screen, or it's
But even then, it looks really fucking good. Right. But there's just something our brains are not comprehending about it. But I don't know if it's the movement or if it's the composition. Like maybe
there's a limitation to even. Maybe eventually technology will catch up, but there might be a limitation to putting that into a film seamlessly.
Yeah. I think taking something that's smaller, scaling it up, then matching the frame rate and the lighting exactly, and then compositing that exactly into a frame, I think that's a real fucking challenge.
Well, I think what we've gotten to, so I think it'd be fantastic. This is my my perfect world. What we would do is just like where Amelisa, there are times where like it just looks, it could look real. They make it stylistic so that you're not like, they're not trying to just like, completely like that uncanny valley of making it a human being. They give them like the line, and they make
Amelisa is like a fucking, almost like it looks rotoscoped, but it can't be.
Right.
Because the movements are so natural.
I think that is, if like, say Jurassic Park 100% flopped or something, say that CG died forever, and we were like, okay, we won't worry about that anymore. We'll just use CG for like fire and water and building backgrounds, not for main characters. It'd be kind of cool to see live action mixed where they get so seamless with stop animation that huge action feats are all done in stop animation. So the human beings turn into stop animation instead of like
the labor intensive for it's insane, and that's why they don't. That's why they don't.
I fucking love it. I know.
Can you imagine though?
Dude, can you imagine
a Marvel universe or something where they're just like he like Superman punches a stop motion through a guy through a stop motion building?
I can't. No, my body can't take that. That's so good. That would be so cool.
That's what I want. I want it so bad.
That'd be so cool, dude. And like not done, not
The fact-
hokey,
the
like a
fact that
Robot
we-
Chicken episode.
No,
like actually
like
done
to look-
to look CG, to make it instead of
As
sub
realistic
CG for
as
stop animation.
possible to make it seem like, how did they shoot that? Oh, that's miniatures? How?
It's
Like-
yes, dude, yes. Because there have been times I've seen movies that use miniatures, and it like takes you a second to be like, oh, this is a set. Oh, cool.
No, it
like
does-
especially sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi is like that, where I'm like, oh, that ship is like, you can tell like it takes a minute, but you're like, oh, this whole ship is like just
Well,
a foot long, and like,
miniatures, I think almost always, like, that's why all the sci-fi movies of, like, honestly, in my opinion, the sci-fi movies of like the 70s and 80s like look better than the sci-fi movies now, because it's just like they had to do the attention to the detail in that moment. It wasn't like, oh, let's render a ship and have it move around unnaturally. It's like,
I know
they exist in
I think
space,
that's
just
it, yeah.
floating around, and it's
it
like,
really because it exists. I think that's where I'm going to be forever. Even though I know CG's caught up.
we're a
I
bunch
can't
of
even
old
tell.
fucking grumps, though.
But I do. This is me. This is millennial corner right now, because I'm like sitting there like because you know what it is. I just watched The Cursed, and the like CG fire has gotten so good that it doesn't bother me. You use CG fire in a movie, it's fine. But when you shoot principal and you have your main character, you have a real fire. Even if it's a little fucking propane tank that's just blasting up like fire out of a tube, you shoot real fire against them, and that's the scene.
Yeah.
But in Cursed, dude, it's 100% CG. Like there's no wind from the fire blowing on them. Do you remember that at the end when the building's burning down and they're leaving and a board falls? No, their dresses don't move. No, their hair doesn't move. It's like they're like a foot away from a giant flaming beam, and it falls to the ground, and nothing, no interaction from the characters, dude. It was very sad.
the fire looked great in that movie, though.
Dude, I disagree.
Dude, the torches and everything? Oh, looked great. The fire at the end was a little wonk.
Yeah, the fire of the house.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We can do good houses.
We're
burning
gonna
down
talk.
nowadays.
All right, we're
Okay,
gonna talk about
we're
the
tangent
cursed.
now. Okay, so
We're gonna
so
talk
Matt
about
got-
the cursed at the end of the
No,
month.
I just had to CG rule. Or I mean, it's not, no, I didn't say that. Scratch it for the record.
CG rules.
No,
Put that on your tombstone.
No, dude, I'm gonna make stickers that are CG rules. But so stop animation for life, and then I don't know, man. We're going. Do you have any Reddits?
Yeah,
Or-
probably. How much
We're-
did I didn't look at the Kickstarter, so I want to know
I was gonna-
how much did this end up costing? While I look up a quick Reddit.
So, yeah, Money Minute. We don't have an exact number,
Right.
And I don't think
over
I don't
30
think
years.
you ever.
He was paying it with like skimming coffee money off the top, probably. Like,
Well, really though, this was the project that he used as like
pickpocketed
catharsis to
Spielberg for it.
really what he did is like he just got really good at stop animation to work in the industry, and then he was like, well, that's my day job, that blows, even though he made some of the coolest stuff. But he's like, this is it. Anyways, let's just take it from 2013, and his Kickstarter, it earned $124,000. So
That's where it ended.
yeah, so dude, it like,
So
you know,
there's no way this movie is like what, $500,000 max,
right?
probably less.
Probably way less. Yeah, dude.
Well, I mean, like
it's-
over the
has numbers.
Yeah, it's probably like
over the years.
$250,000
But
tops, 250,000 tops.
I think where exactly, like, yeah, let's just say like
That's
250,000.
Insane, because
That is so cheap because it's
But it's
like
over, 'cause
normally
it's-
stop animation is like a couple mil, at least if not 20 mil.
I mean,
you know?
look at Leica, dude. A fucking Leica
Right.
production's
It's like
80
40.
million.
Yeah, 80. Yeah.
The fucking
So-
the last Leica movie was like 100 million almost. Like
But-
Kubo
but I
was
think-
like 60 million.
Right. But there's two parts to that. It's overhead. He owns a studio
Yeah, and
that
time.
makes him money. Time. He did this basically. This is a weekend project, and it took him years and years.
Yeah.
And he got pretty much free labor. he was teaching kids to do it, and he doesn't have like he's not in a studio like Leica. They have like their studio's huge,
Well, it's like
and they like
it
you
more
know, they're-
resembles a
they're
traditional
paying like a-
production. Like this movie,
Right.
If they were to film this movie now and be like, okay, here's the
Yeah.
storyboards, we're gonna make everything and we're gonna film everything over the course of
They
like the
if they
next
try to
6
shoot this in
months.
like 3 years, yeah. Oh yeah, right. So like, yeah, if you want to look at like true, but most stop animations they'll take like 3 years to do, average. And so it's like,
Well, sometimes
like, even if you give this,
they'll take like up to a year to shoot and then like up to a year to edit, depending on it. But even that, but that's this movie. If it was made now under like that type of traditional filmmaking, 30 million easy. Like,
yeah, easy. So that's kind of why I'm like, there isn't really. When I was looking around, I'm like, there's not necessarily because even the
good for him.
Even
I hope he makes a bunch of money off of it, or at least a good chunk to be able to do some more stuff. I don't know.
The box office gross was, it says 322,000, and I'm like, how do you like what about like, I wonder what his deal is with Shudder, and I wonder like you know what he's gonna do, like if he's gonna get like, you know, a DVD distribution or a Blu-ray.
I mean, it's still pretty new, so it's like, and it's gonna build its cult following, I think, over the years and be seen. And it's gonna just age like fine wine.
Oh, dude, 100%. Yeah,
so,
this is
definitely something I would own a Blu-ray with like a special, like a featurette and like
well, dude, hard. And it would be so sick to have, because this is the full movie. I want to go back and watch. He released like basically this movie in 3 parts.
Yeah,
and it was something like 80 minutes or something, and so, which is essentially like, you know, how long it was, and so it's like kind of interesting to see that. I haven't watched them yet, and so I want to go through and watch it.
Interested to see like how it was edited differently and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
To see how different it is. I want to know. I'm going to look up to find the first footage, because there was a couple scenes where I'm like, this maybe looks like older film stock.
Exactly.
I wonder if this was like the early stuff that was filmed that was incorporated. Because it's hard to say. Well, that's what's interesting though. It's like there are scenes in this movie that are probably right next to each other that were filmed 30 years apart. And that's what's fucking sick. Like that's just cool that it's just like he's been
seamless about film.
He's been holding the lantern. Oh yeah. Can you imagine if it's like digital or something? I mean, obviously digital didn't even exist back then.
He put it. So he did. So it, like, this is one of those like shot, like, you know, shot on film, shot on digital. It's a whole mix. So it's like wild, the technology that we have nowadays.
Oh yeah. Well, it's what allowed him to finish it, because it caught up, because it's like he could do it at home. Like on a fucking, he can, you know, go into a Premiere and edit this thing. Whereas
they used it on Dragon Frame. Do you remember Dragon Frame?
Oh, did they?
David was telling us about that.
Yeah, Dragon Frame.
So they used Dragon Frame for this. Yeah.
So. Okay, all right. So I got one person on Reddit said they want to watch it, but they haven't yet. And I was like, go watch it and let us know.
Go watch it. Let us know.
Yeah, and then this other guy, Randall Flag, which, there you go. There's a Dark Tower reference right there, buddy.
Oh.
One of the most unique, so good username, one of the most unique and visually interesting films I've ever seen. The amount of effort to have made something like this is admirable. Yeah, dude. That's like an understatement.
Well said.
100%. This movie ruled. I don't know. I really liked it, and I'll definitely watch it again one day. I want to sit it down, and I want to see a midnight screening of it on like a big screen or something. Is my dream. That'd be amazing.
Kidding me, dude? I could
see them
even
playing
though
at the Tower or something.
I don't like Fathom events necessarily, but
yeah,
it's like, I don't know. Fathom events is okay, but sometimes they compress it and make it bad. It'd be so nice to see this like a 4K.
I could see him doing it. I'm gonna fucking bother because I guess Patrick, he works for like Salt Lake Film Society, working at like doing the late night movies. I'm gonna bother him and be like,
sick.
Hey, you should get in their ear and next year do Mad God for one of the Halloween movies, for the October movies, so that we can go see it. Because now they do them all at the Broadway.
Oh, they do? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Go, because that's what you're saying, right?
They did this year, I think, is what Pablo was saying. Yeah. Anyway, is there anything else? What's your actual favorite scene then?
I mean, that is a big one. The like, I do like the witch sequence. I don't know. I really love. See, there's just so many little bits that, like, my favorite scene is definitely that clock. That clock. Yeah. That scene gives me the most like visceral response. But there's so many details. Like, I love that it's like the doctors come and they like strip them down and then everybody applauds. That's really cool. It's like a theater.
Yeah, like literally a theater.
And it's like, who are these people? Like, are they like investors in this? You know, like what?
Like the shadows of the real guy, and then the stop motion creatures come up and they undress him and everything.
And I love how they just undress him and applaud, and that's it. It's just so cool. I love that, and I love like you said, sound design's beautiful in this. But when they start making the monoliths, and then like the monoliths are like fly. You know, they're like,
Oh, they like levitate
they're
up.
like,
Yeah.
they're like, and when they hit the flint guy, like the link
Yeah,
guys,
it's
it's
just
like
Yeah.
yeah, that's great.
It's really good.
Good sound design, man. I don't know, dude. Oh, what's really sick is I need to go back and like I need to like freeze frame that scene when he first looks at the binoculars because you can see like the creature from like Danger Will Robinson or whatever. Those like what the fuck is that?
Oh yeah, what was
Old
that?
sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's like every dude. Oh my god, what is that robot's name? Anyways, that robot's there. The one Danger, and then there is the like. Oh my god. Now I'm forgetting all the robots' names and I'm blanking out. But from RoboCop, it's like there is like a RoboCop in there, and there's the thing Phil Tippett built that like, oh my god, what is it called? Damn it, the little robot that's like, 1160 or something, whatever.
You're losing your.
I'm losing
mind.
it, dude. You know what I'm talking about? The robot at the beginning of RoboCop that blasts the guy, kills the guy. He's like, it's one of those street guys.
Because he did that on RoboCop.
Right. It's like one of those is there.
Stop motion there.
Oh, that's so
The other
beautiful.
thing, my other favorite scene, I had to say, I want an entire movie of just those war sequences when the second assassin's got the Humvee and he's going through like that area right before he goes down in the giant hole or whatever. It's like, I want a whole movie that's just that vibe because it's so cool. Just like this post-apocalyptic, like dust-filled, poison-aired, like, I don't know. I want like a Fallout movie that to be shot like that or something like,
It's Ed 209. Dude, a Fallout adaptation with Phil Tippett would be so sick. That's the movie. That's the movie I want, man.
Yeah, can you imagine?
That would be sick to have him like, oh my god.
Anyway, we're running way too long, and we didn't even have a voicemail this time.
I know, yeah.
So,
actually, Travis, if you do listen to this episode, thank you. You're amazing.
Yes,
but the movies that we're gonna do for our next week's episode. You want to tell them?
Yeah, we're actually doing 3 movies in one episode. It's our unofficial trilogy of the Invisible Man trilogy that we're doing. We'll be doing the original 1930s Invisible Man. We're gonna be doing Paul Verhoeven's Hollow Man, and then Leigh Whannell's 2020 Invisible Man. So that is what we're watching, all 3 of those movies this weekend. We'll be back next week to talk about. We're just going to talk about all of them in one podcast.
Right. Kind of that whole because it's the history of them. It's basically going from the first one to the newest one. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the breakdown of the story told differently because they're all pretty different.
Right. Travis, feel free. Please call in. Even if you only watch one of them, just call in about that movie or, call in.
Yeah, but no pressure either.
Your thoughts. Right. Either way, but we love to hear from you.
Yeah, that's nice. So anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. If you haven't seen this movie and you have any interest whatsoever, please go watch it. It deserves your support and it's really good. And then
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you can watch it if you join our Patreon, and you can have the Plex channel, and then you can go watch it on there. We have it, or if you have
the
Plex, Shudder.
Got it on Shudder. Thank you everyone who has been contributing on the Reddit. I've been loving to see that a lot of you guys actually are watching a lot of these horror movies with us. It's been a lot of fun. So I appreciate everyone on that. So check that out. Be sure to go see what else we're watching. And see if you're watching any of these movies with us. Get in there, comment. Let's talk about them. Horror movies.
Yeah, man.
Horror movies. I'm living them.
And let us know your thoughts about all the horror movies you've been watching this month. You can give us a call at 801-613-1501.
Very nice.
I appreciate it. All right.
All right. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.